Money is taught in two fundamental opposing languages. One language programs lifelong employees, focusing on paychecks and the illusion of job security. The other creates people who understand wealth at its core: ownership, leverage, and self-sustaining systems. Kiyosaki heard both. His poor dad was educated and respected, yet trapped in the traditional path. The mandate: study hard, get a stable job, climb the ladder, pay bills, hope for employer-provided retirement. This was the limiting gospel of the middle class. Rich Dad took an entrepreneurial, owner-focused approach. He understood money rewards ownership, creativity, and informed risk, not just effort. He taught that the world is divided: people who work diligently for money and people who train money to work for them, becoming CEOs of their own finances. Poor Dad followed the system blindly, equating obedience with respectability. Rich Dad studied the system critically for leverage. Poor Dad trusted credentials. Rich Dad trusted demonstrable competence, financial literacy, and results. Poor Dad believed in slowly saving money. Rich Dad believed in aggressively investing and creating value. Poor Dad prioritized the security of guaranteed income. Rich Dad prioritized building true financial freedom, control over time. Poor Dad believed high income equaled success. Rich Dad believed true wealth came from controlling appreciating high cash flow assets. Kiyosaki learned the crucial equation. Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out. Many buy liabilities disguised as success: large mortgages, depreciating car payments, high-cost lifestyles. Rich Dad taught him to separate personal pride from financial decisions. Buying to impress outsiders leads to servitude. Schools and Poor Dad teach the fear of mistakes. Rich Dad viewed mistakes as essential tuition, crucial data points providing market knowledge and resilience. Poor Dad warned him to avoid all risks. Rich Dad taught a structured framework to evaluate and systematically manage risks. The difference between blindly avoiding risk, fear, and strategically managing it, strategy, is where sustainable wealth is built. Financial education became the key leverage point. Without it, people fall into traps of high taxes and consumer debt, working harder, but remaining perpetually locked on the employee treadmill. Rich Dad showed that the wealthy think in terms of cash flow. They ask, how quickly does it move? How long will it generate income without my continuous presence? Job titles and salaries are secondary if the cash flow is weak. Most people exchange finite time for finite money. Rich Dad pushed him to build systems, acquire assets, and establish ownership structures that earn money even when he's disengaged. This shift from employee mindset to asset owner's mindset is the foundation of his philosophy. Wealth doesn't begin with a deposit. It begins in the mind long before the first investment is established. The asset column, where the wealthy focus their energy and capital, moving them away from the employee's finite path, is composed of four primary categories: businesses, real estate, paper assets, and intellectual property, IP. A business means true ownership systems, running without the owner's daily presence. If you must work there, it's just a job, not a true asset. The wealthy build businesses for unparalleled control over cash flow and tax burden. The poor and middle class seek jobs within them. Real estate is valued solely for its cash flow and appreciation, not personal appearance. The goal is to acquire properties where monthly rental income substantially exceeds all expenses: mortgage, taxes, maintenance. This is true asset ownership, where the property pays you. Paper assets, stocks, bonds, are utilized differently by the rich. They focus on sophisticated trading strategies, options, and warrants, often using leverage to maximize gains and exploit market inefficiencies. Unlike the average investor who passively buys and holds low-yield positions. Intellectual property, IP, patents, copyrights, and royalties, represents maximum leverage. A single creation, like a book or formula, can generate continuous, substantial income for years with minimal additional labor. This is the ultimate money-working-for-you structure. The poor and middle class primarily purchase liabilities that masquerade as assets. Their largest liability is often their primary residence: no positive cash flow, high costs, followed by rapidly depreciating vehicles. These purchases lock individuals into the employee mindset, necessitating a guaranteed paycheck to cover the endless outflow. The wealthy use these four asset categories to create a virtuous cycle. Income from assets, or right arrow, reinvest in more. Assets, hen right arrow. Increased income, right arrow. Accelerated wealth. This system, designed for generational wealth, is more important than the amount of money you start with. This framework relies heavily on financial literacy. Without understanding how the tax system rewards business owners and real estate investors, tax breaks, depreciation, versus penalizing employees, high income tax rates. The game remains rigged. The wealthy use debt as a tool to acquire income-producing assets, good debt. The poor use debt to acquire status symbol liabilities, bad debt. This financial knowledge is the engine driving the rich dad system. It transforms the individual from an obedient player into the strategic owner and architect of the system. The rich dad taught that one of the single greatest advantages available in the financial world is the corporation. The corporation is not a massive building or factory. It is merely a legal document, a sophisticated liability shield that creates a massive advantage over the employee, who chooses to operate as an individual. The employee's cash flow pattern is fundamentally penalizing. Earn, pay taxes, spend. They are penalized first, operating under the system of taxation without representation because they have no formal control over how their money is treated before it hits their pocket. The wealthy, operating through their corporation, reverse this cash flow pattern. Earn, spend, pay taxes. The corporation allows the wealthy to pay their expenses first, travel, meals, vehicles, education, and even portions of housing, and then legally deduct these costs as business expenses before the government assesses taxes on the remaining profit. This is how the wealthy play the system. They use the same laws, but legally structure themselves to benefit from them. Rich Dad emphasized that understanding this reversal is critical. The tax laws are fundamentally designed to encourage people to form businesses and invest in real estate, rewarding those who provide jobs and housing. The employee, by simply taking a paycheck, is not participating in the game and thus pays the highest possible percentage in taxes. Furthermore, the corporation shields the owner from personal liability. If the business faces a lawsuit, the individual's personal assets, home, savings are generally protected. The employee, facing personal financial trouble, has no such shield. This concept ties back directly to the crucial need for financial literacy. The poor dad was educated in conventional subjects, but lacked this essential specialized knowledge about how legal entities and tax structures operate. The rich dad's genius was not in making money, but in knowing how to legally structure the entity that received and spent the money. The corporation is the powerful, almost invisible firewall separating the rich from the financial penalties and personal liabilities that relentlessly burden the middle class. The goal is not just to make money, but to learn the rules of the system so you can play the game the way the wealthy do, not as an obedient piece on the board, but as the one controlling the board itself. If you found this breakdown of the Rich Dad's secrets helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe for more insights, and don't forget to click the bell icon so you never miss the next part of this financial journey.